everyone. I think we are live and we're just gonna sit here and chit chat a few minutes while we wait for everybody to join us. So I know we've already got some people here with us, so welcome to today's live draw with Sktchy. I'll introduce myself again in a few minutes for those who are coming in, but I'm Tiffany S DaVanzo. I am a medical illustrator and a portrait artist, and I love doing these live draws from time to time to get a chance to kind of chit chat with everyone and talk about a recent class or just get some quality drawing time in. So I'm going to, if you all want to, let me know, where you're from. I'll check the chat down here. You'll see me looking a lot of different directions because I've got a bunch of different screens up, but I'll be looking down here in the chat to see where everybody is chiming in from. I know we have at least one other person here from Knoxville, Tennessee, and that's my daughter. My 11-year-old is upstairs. She's going to be working on her own little portrait, so if we're lucky, I might convince her to come down and show us what she's done at the end of today's lesson. So, okay, let's see. Okay, Atlanta, that's very close. My husband flies out of Atlanta, so he's down there every week. I'm getting out of bed early for you. I appreciate it. London, fabulous. San Diego, okay, so London, first time this year. My daughter and I went in May. I absolutely loved it. Can't believe I waited this long to go, but I loved it. And I grew up in San Diego, so I grew up in Poway, or at least for my middle school, high school years. And let's see, Hampshire, UK. Oh, I love it. And yeah, Albany, New York, another Southern California. Yeah, the cats are here too. Did you see me just push one of my cats out of the way? So at the moment, I only have one cat in the room, but if I get any more, I might have to call for a cat rescue. Let's see here. Oh, Dublin, Ireland. I got to go to Dublin this summer too. So yeah, don't get me started. I absolutely loved it. It was the trip of a lifetime. So that was fun. And Spain, wonderful. Okay, Claremont Mason, just old neighbors of mine. Okay, so let's see, people are still coming in. I'll just kind of start talking. We have this lovely muse today that we're going to be drawing. This is Samira, and I loved this, portrait. She's really got this kind of lovely, unique lighting on her face. And then she's standing in front of these kind of cold, bold, color block areas, which kind of, you can see that color reflecting on the side of her face, which I liked. And her hair is amazing. And since I'm going to be working in ink today, I'm looking forward to filling in all that hair. It's really super therapeutic and relaxing. And I am going to start with a pencil sketch today, flying pencil. I'm going to start with a pencil sketch to kind of get in my basic proportions, and then I'm going to move over into inking, and you are free to use whatever media you want. So if you want to do this in pencil, go for it. Colored pencil, great. Pen, even better. We just finished up Face Week this week, which was a series of 5 days, every day of the week drawing a different pen portrait. So I'm going to kind of continue along those lines. And I've just got a selection of different kind of marker pens, and I will go over those in just a second once we get a few more people signed in, and then we'll get to drawing. Okay, let me see where I see people from. Okay, Brazil. This is why it's so much fun to do these live drawings for me, because I feel like I've got people I know and friends from all over the world, which is fun. Queens, Denver, Salt Lake City. I lived in Salt Lake City too. I moved around a lot. So let's see. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about my basic tools here. So I'm just got basic pencil, whatever you've got is fine. These are the Black Wings. I love them. Just really wonderful pencils. And I've got a selection of erasers so that I can kind of, my goal is to make a light kind of skeleton, just a framework of a sketch. Not a lot of details, not a lot of perfection, just something that will keep me on track before I go wild with the ink. So these are some of my drawing supplies. And then for pens, I've got a Micron here, and I've got a couple of these Tombos. Let's see. They're just calligraphy pens, and they just have a lovely kind of soft tip that allows you to get a little bit of thick and thin line, but not quite as much as a total brush pen. So I like them for control reasons. And then I have a few of these Faber-Castell Pit Artist brush, and they're white, which is lovely because it allows us, if you're working on a toned paper, to kind of work both ways. So I love those. And then I have a few Copic markers just in color in case I choose to add a little bit of color at the end. So I don't always have a plan. Sometimes I just get started. Sometimes I practice a little bit ahead of time. This is what I did last night, just kind of really loose freehand to see if I liked, what kind of style I wanted to work in. So maybe we'll end up with something kind of looking like that, and I might change my mind halfway through and do something totally different too. So let's see. Okay, all right, folks, so I'm just gonna check my time, just 5 minutes after. I think I can go ahead and start sketching. Let's see here. Rap Maybe says, I will go rogue today. Yes, you always have the option to go rogue with me. I love nothing more than seeing somebody just be inspired on their own and do something totally different. So go rogue all you want. Like Long Beach. Okay, good. Switzerland. Oh, wonderful. All right. Okay, and I will say we're using a new streaming platform today that I'm just learning, so please forgive me if we have any kind of technical issues, but I will do my best to keep us all rolling and keep everything good to go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just start sketching here. Hold on, okay, all right. And I've got hopefully you can all see our muse up on the screen, and also Sktchy is putting it in the comment section. So if you go over to the chat, you should be able to download the image on your own so you can print or have it. And I like to have something that I can touch and hold in my left hand. So I'm going to just kind of move my little picture over here, and you might see me pulling it back and forth onto the screen. Okay, so I have just given myself a couple little, I don't know if you can see them, light guidelines. I do this when I'm sketching live so that I don't end up drawing way too big or too small. And it's just how I keep myself on the page. You can see I've made a tiny mark over here to not let her hair go bigger than this and this. You all don't have to start with this, but it helps me keep myself organized. All right. So I always start my portraits with just a nice kind of loose circle. And I didn't bring any of my skulls over to sit on the desk today. But what I'm basically drawing is the cranium of the skull. So if you feel behind your head and down to about the level of your nose, not the jaw, but just kind of the big base of the skull. So I'm going to do that. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop a line down for midline of her face. And you can see I gave myself a stop here mark for the chin. So, and then I'm going to go ahead and kind of estimate the width of her face. Give myself a little mark there. I don't always draw the exact same way, so just kind of do what feels right for you. Give a light indication of the jaw there. And then I'm going to go back up and go ahead and start laying in lines for the eye level. Sorry, let me move that over here. Eye level and eyebrow level. So if you've ever studied the Loomis method, you know that they kind of start with a sphere and then they chop the sides off. Like you were slicing, I don't know, slicing the side off of it. And then I draw a line in here. That's going to be my eye level. I'm going to go just a little bit above and give myself another line for the eyebrows. Now my big rule is to divide the face in thirds. So if I'm looking at eyebrow to forehead, eyebrow to nose, and nose to chin, those should be about equal. In this case, she has her chin just tilted slightly up, as all good young girls know makes fabulous photos. So her eyebrow to forehead is going to be a little bit smaller than her eyebrow to nose, and that's going to be a little bit smaller than nose to chin. So this is one of those things that's just kind of nice to look at your reference photo ahead of time and to kind of make those distinctions so you can be thinking about them as you're drawing. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of do that, and I do a lot of measuring with my fingers. Not very scientific, but it gets the job done. And I'm just kind of going to give the shape of the bottom of her nose, because we're looking up at her nose a little bit. And then again, I'm looking to measure down to either her midline of her lip or the top of the lip. Make a little indication of that. And when I'm at this stage, I always say, I'm not being too precious, I'm not being too concerned. If something doesn't look right, I'm not freaking out, because this is just my under drawing. I'm just kind of getting myself started. The hardest thing is that blank paper. Once you start scribbling on it, if it's good, if it's bad, it doesn't matter. You got started. So that's the important thing. Okay, and she's got this nice, lovely little kind of round chin, so I'm just gonna go ahead and draw that shape in to help guide me. And so I really do draw a little bit differently every time. Normally I would have the eyes much more done by this level, but with that chin tilt, I'm really just being led to start from the bottom up. But let's jump back in now and do her eyes. So looking at our reference, I can see if I draw a straight line down and up, that I'm going to take the eye to the right, which is her left eye, and I'm just going to be slightly over from the edge of her nose. So I'm just going to go ahead and give myself an indication. And if you're sketching with pencil first, you're going to want to, hold your pencil back far and sketch really lightly. I'm probably drawing a little bit harder than I usually would, just so it will show up on camera. So you want to be drawing lightly at this stage. And if you are brave, and I hope we have some people out there, just you can jump right in with your pen. So maybe you're using a big pen for today's drawing or something, go for it. Okay, I'm just kind of giving myself the shape of the eye, and that might be as detailed as I go on her eye, because I am going to be inking this, so but I can see I want to move that over a little bit. Next thing I would say is don't ever judge your eyes until you have both of them in. You can have an eye that looks absolutely perfect, and then draw its match and you realize something is very off, or it's not in the right location. Or you could have one that looks just completely wrong, and then once you draw the other one in, you realize, oh, actually, I was not that off. And I'm just making some little adjustments here as I go, moving the side of her face out a little bit. And the same thing goes for eyebrows. Eyes never really look right until we've got an eyebrow. Another thing I try to, kind of give myself grace about when I'm working in ink is that if I'm doing a pencil drawing, I will erase and erase and erase until I get the perfect likeness. If I'm doing an ink drawing, you just kind of have to go for it, and you have to just allow yourself to be okay with maybe a less than a perfect likeness. I think ink, and just, you think about its uses, comic books, all kinds of different art like that. It's meant to be expressive and quick and kind of, I don't want to say caricature in the sense that you're making somebody cartoon-like, but caricature in the way that you're able to let loose of maybe some perfections, right? Like you're creating a feeling or a mood more than necessarily the perfect representation. So if you're like me, go ahead and give yourself that grace. Okay, I'm just going to come down here and give her some little nostrils. And I'm just kind of looking at where they fall in relationships with the lips. I'm not going to worry about the jewelry yet. I'm just going to go for the shape. And then as soon as I get this, I'm going to just look over here at the comments and see what we've got going on. And sometimes I just draw something a little bit harder than I need to be, and then just come back and erase. Actually gonna take my big eraser and just lighten this up a bit. Okay. It looks like, in addition to my daughter watching, I think I've got my mom watching too. So hi, Mom. I say a big shout out to parents who support their kids when they tell them they've decided they want to be an artist, because that's a little bit of a leap of faith. Okay. All right, so I think I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to give myself a little bit of, I'm going to add some neck and then some hair. And for her neck, I'm just going to kind of, I really love to create portraits that, what is it? Like a bust, right? Like, so if you're doing a sculpture and you were creating a bust, you would kind of end it at the neck. So that's what I'm going to do by just kind of coming down in here. All right, and just a quick line indication for collarbone. And yours is looking like it's missing something, it's missing the ear. So let's get that shape of the ear in. I see a lot of familiar names over here, so you may have, maybe some of y'all have taken one of my anatomy classes, and if you have, you know how I feel about the ears. So underrated and so fun to draw. So right now I'm just working on that C shape. I always describe the ear as YMCA, the C being the outer shape of the ear. And I've got this a little big, but I'm just gonna correct myself as I go along. Check my time because I really don't want to spend more than a few more minutes on my pencil sketch before we start inking. And then that inner rim of the ear, also kind of like a partial C. And then her hair is covering a little bit of it, but our Y shape comes right in here. So we have the helix, the anti-helix. We have these two crews that make up that Y, and then we have the C, which to me is the deep part of your ear, right here. The M is a little bit of a stretch because it's the tragus here and the anti-tragus. Little hard to see on this sketch, but if you look at a photograph of an ear, or you look at your own ear up close tonight, see if you can spot some of those shapes. Okay, so I'm going to go a little wild on her hair. This is where we get to have fun. Those of us who do not have the enjoyment of curly hair can live vicariously. So I'm just giving a basic outlet. It's not as wide on this side, so I'm just going to kind of come in here. Only an artist who specializes in hyper-realism is going to worry about each and every curl, so we're going to go for shape over perfection. And then I'm going to throw in a big hoop. Just give an indication there's a few more earrings over here. Okay. And now is a good time to go ahead and push your chair back if you're drawing along with me, and stand back and take a look at this from a distance. It's really the best way to check your proportions in your work. Some people like to take a photograph of it and look at it that way, or to look at it in the mirror. But I'm just going to do that before I start inking to make sure there's nothing that's driving me crazy. I think I've made her eyes a little big and maybe a little high, but I'm going to go with it. So, and if y'all want to make me feel good, you can tell me what's a little bit off about your drawings too. And then we'll all collaborate. So, okay, that's San Antonio, Texas. Oh, yay, my Knoxville friend. Hi, Kelly from Knoxville. And I lived in Laredo for about 2 months, once upon a time. So I really enjoy seeing where everybody's from. Okay, so I'm going to clean this up just a little bit by too much cleanup. If you have a kneaded eraser, you can take that and just lighten up your lines a little bit. Don't overdo it like I just did. How many folks out there enjoy drawing with ink? And how many of you are like me who find it a little intimidating or unforgiving? I think it's so good for all of us to push ourselves to try new things, which is usually why when Sktchy asks me to do something, I say yes, even if I'm like, ink. And why I really like every time a new 30 Faces 30 Days comes around, because with all the different instructors, you're always going to push yourself to try a different technique. I'm going really dark on this, but I just wanted to give myself a little bit of it more on my mouth here to work on. I don't know if my mom is still tuned in, but I hope my dad is watching. I hope my dad is drawing. Because he does some pretty fabulous drawings. Okay. He knows what I'm talking about. Okay. So I'm going to stop, or else I won't ever stop. And let's move over to our pens. I'm going to, let's see. I'm going to start with my Tombow. If you've got a Bic, if anybody's doing a dip pen with pen and ink, I'll give you extra credit. Send me a message on Instagram or over on Sktchy, because that is wonderful. If you've got a micron, you can start with that too. So I'm going to just go ahead and go in and start right with the eyes and just kind of work out from there. Just reading your comments. I love that so many of you are pushing yourselves to try new things. I, for the first time in a really long time, tried watercolor this year. And when I say it had been a minute, it had been a minute since I did watercolor, but I did some of the 30 Faces 30 Days watercolor, and I loved it. Okay, so just starting with that upper lid line. Try not to get too caught up in the lashes right away like I did, but so part of the reason I work like this with ink is it's just because, you know, sometimes we learn a certain way and it's what feels comfortable for us. As a medical illustrator, pen and ink is a very traditional way of working for medical illustrators back in the early 1900s and mid 1800s when medical illustration was really taking off. And so part of our grad school experience was to work in pen and ink, very traditional pen and ink, with the little pot of Higgins ink and the dip pen or quill and everything. But for my line of work, you have to be so accurate. So we would spend, you know, days or weeks perfecting our pencil sketch so that every little artery and every highlight was planned out, and then ink it. And so the inking was the final stage. So that's what feels right for me. That's what I'm used to. So that's why the little sketch helps me. But I love watching people who just jump right in, and sometimes I do that. Okay. Eyebrow, got one done. Let's jump over and do the other one. Again, you start in whatever area feels best for you. If I go really quiet, it means my brain is like 100% just focusing on like, do not get this line wrong. So. Let's see, somebody I see asked if I got my drawing skills from my father. I said my uncle was an artist, and that was very inspirational to me growing up, and he always really encouraged me. My father was in law enforcement, so when I tease him about it, it's because I've seen his crime scene drawings. So not quite the same type of drawing, but very fun. And actually it was, I don't know if I've ever told them this. He had a first aid book. And I remember finding it when I was younger and seeing the drawings of the injuries and the tourniquets. And that's probably one of the first things that intrigued me about medical illustration. Okay. All right, how's everybody doing? This is kind of when I wish we were on a Zoom so I could tell you to hold up your drawings and let me see. Sorry if the camera keeps losing focus as my hand moves around. Okay. Are we all trying very hard not to be perfectionists? So this pin doesn't give me a very big range of width, but that is something that you should be thinking about if you're working with a pen or a brush pen especially, is just varying your pressure. So let me see if I can try a little bit harder to be a better example of that. There we go. And then don't be afraid to just allow a line to break up. And just for the hairline, I'm just gonna make some light little, I think the technical name is swoops, but that will kind of allow me to frame the face in while I continue to work. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to get to the ear here. And this pen, one of the benefits of working, I don't know what should we be calling this, marker felt, but with this kind of ink is that it does dry very well, and afterwards I can come back and erase my pencil marks. Whereas if you're working with a big pen, I don't know about you, but my experience is that it never fully dries. So erasing pencil marks afterwards is harder. So, you know, if you're working with just one of those big, you just might want to jump in. They do allow you a lot more freedom to press lighter and so to kind of make any mistakes you need to. Okay. When I get asked, you know, by beginning artists, how important is it to learn anatomy, you know, it really varies for everybody, but where it does come in handy just a little bit is in something like this, where maybe you can't perfectly make out every shape in the ear. So there's two ways to handle that. You just draw the shapes you see, or to just kind of use that background knowledge to fill in the blanks. So if you like to fill in the blanks, then learning a little bit of anatomy is always handy. Okay, I'm going to do this earring in two big strokes because perfect ovals are hard. And then I don't know if I got 3 earrings or 2 earrings. Give her a couple extra earrings. I'm going to come over and do this one while I'm at it. Do the neck, get into the lips, and then we'll get to some fun. Let me check my time. Okay, we're doing good. We can maybe add a little bit of color once we get the basics in. And if any of you happen to just finish participating in Face Week and you have any questions, feel free to shout it out or type it out, I guess, or about drawing in general or anything else. Okay, and I'm going to try to be very light on the lines around her nose because I think I'm going to come in and do the shading with maybe a different marker or maybe some hatching. So I'm really just going to focus on the edges where it's a little bit stronger, like the outside of her nostril, and her actual nostrils, and just that tip of the nose. So I'm gonna start. I'm gonna go ahead and start with her nostril, and I'm gonna just try to break it up a little bit so that I give myself a little bit of paper to add the nose ring in later. And I don't know if I like that, but we're going to live with it. Okay. And then the other side is more of just a slash with just a tiny bit of nostril visible. Just a little bit of nose there, okay? And then I feel like I want to move. I moved just slightly adjusted where I had her filled from that little dip, right? The Cupid's bow of your mouth. I just moved it over just a smidge. And I'm going to try to go nice and light around the edges and nice and heavy between the lips. And I do have a tendency to turn the corners of everyone's mouth up, so everybody ends up a little bit smilier when I'm done with them. Okay. And again, I don't know if it's showing up on camera, but a lot of my lines are not going exactly where my pencil strokes were because as we draw, our brains are constantly adjusting things for us, so. All right, I think I'm going to just darken that upper lid a little bit. Instead of drawing out every single eyelash, you can kind of get that same glamorous effect by just darkening the upper line of the lid. And then I'm actually going to switch to my micron because it's a little bit thinner to just do a few little details, like under her lower lid, you can see the thickness of the lower lid, and you can usually either see the lower lid or the upper lid, so depending upon which way they're looking. So I'm just going to add a bit of that and just a few other small details that I don't want to be really strong, but I do want there. Let's go ahead and add in the piercing. Okay, so I'm going to, if I look carefully, we don't have a really strong white highlight on her eye, but we do have some differences in tone. I'm just going to go ahead and circle out a spot or two to be a highlight. I can always get rid of it later, but if I don't leave a little bit of white, or in this case, since I'm working on tanned paper, then there's no going back. You'll have to add a little white dot on top, which is fine, but so I just usually find a spot, try to match it up a little bit with the image, and then keep them similar to each other, but maybe not necessarily perfect. Okay. All right, I'm going to switch back to my pen now and do the part I've been waiting the whole drawing for, and that's adding in kind of some of this fabulous hair. And I'm just kind of looking at the reference, just some different strands, nice and loose. Hello, Arizona. So I'm very thankful. I'm so thankful for all of y'all out on the West Coast for joining in. I know I saw a few people commenting that they'll be watching it later because they're tuning in, I assume, from Australia or somewhere where it's still the middle of the night. So that's wonderful. Sorry to block the drawing, but I'm gonna to get in here to make some of these curls. And it's a nice way to start a Saturday. A cup of coffee and a drawing. Okay. Okay, so now I'm just going to outline this earring a little bit to allow myself a little bit of space, because I'm going to come in with a heavier marker. I think when you're inking, as opposed to drawing with a pencil where you maybe just do what feels right, and if it's not right, then you can erase it. Every stroke you make, you have to think just a little bit about it beforehand to see if it feels like it's right. Okay, before I get crazy, I'm gonna just erase some of these pencil strokes. Another thing that's probably not obvious, but I am actually working with a block under my drawing so that it's at just a slight angle which helps me see it a little bit more in proportion. If you're drawing flat down and your face is up and your drawing is down and you're looking at an angle, you can distort things a little bit. So whenever you have a chance to kind of draw and elevate it, or for my job, I have my computer screen and tablet, and I draw directly straight onto the computer, like I was working from an easel, so that's what feels best to me. Okay. Oops. Just gonna add that collarbone in. Just a little indication, light that muscle as it comes down. Okay. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and just fill in her hair because I've really been looking forward to this. So Liv, if you're still watching, this is when you're gonna want to switch to your 8B pencil. I told my daughters we're gonna work in pencil, and I told her to save the 8B for the hair. So go ahead and get your 8B out, Liv. I want to leave some little gaps of the paper showing through in some areas, so I'm going to kind of start off by thinking about those areas first. Now, if you were doing normally when I talk about doing hair, I talk about finding sections, find areas that seem to clump together, and look at that in terms of light and shadow. Because I want to go for something a little bit more graphic today, I'm just going to leave out some little highlights and I'm going to go solid. But if you are being a little more realistic than I am today, you can think about dividing the hair like that. And let's see where I want some little bits of light on this side. And definitely in these little curls up top. And if you go over to a museum or check out Sktchy, there are some really fabulous artists who work in ink, so you can get really inspired. Okay, now just going to add a little bit of this marker to my edges. I was always, we had, in my art program, there was also an interior design program, and they always got to do these fabulous marker renderings of the spaces they were designing. And those of us in the illustration and the painting programs didn't get a chance to work with the fun markers as much, so now I enjoy it when I get a chance. Okay, so now I'm just gonna choose a direction and go ahead and fill this in. And then I don't want anything to seem too regular, so I'll just now, if you're working with some thin microns or maybe a big pen, this is going to take you a little bit longer. Sorry. To fill in all this hair. But it'll be fun. It'll be relaxing. And make sure however you're holding the marker or your pen feels natural for you and normal. Because I'm trying not to cover the drawing, I've kind of got a weird arm angle going on here. So you don't have to imitate what I'm doing. Do what feels right. Okay, all right, that was very fun. Okay, let's get the other side done here in a second, and then let's add some tone and some color. You might want to do a little bit of cross hatching in the face to add that lovely shadow area. Again, I'm just kind of adding a little bit of this darkness before I start filling it in, just to keep everything even. Oops, let me jump over here. Fill that in. See, in pencil, I would probably just erase out the earring. You just have to think about your art a little bit differently when you're working in ink or anything that's permanent, whether it be watercolor or Isn't this a great reference? So many things about this that are working for me. Oh, and now I'll do my public service announcement that for all of you who are muses and who post your photos to Museum, thank you so much. It's really just so inspirational for artists, and I think we as artists too need to just post photos of ourselves for reference so that we can help out our fellow artists. It's really wonderful to have such a good resource for photos and people all ages, all kinds of expressions, features. It's wonderful. So thank you to our muses. And I know a lot of the ones that I choose to draw are artists too, and I love that. I love drawing fellow artists. Okay, so now we have brought the drama. Okay, let's see where we're doing. Okay, so we have just a little bit of time left. So I'm going to go ahead and come in with my white and add a little bit of white in some of these highlight areas where the light is hitting her here on the side of her face and the side of her nose. And then I may come in and add just a touch of color, and you're going to be amazed at how fast that this all comes together here at the end. So the white of our eyes is never, of course, perfectly white, but because we're working on a toned paper, I am going to go ahead and add white in there because I also want to make her eyes pop as a feature. I'm going to add a little less on this side because it's in more of shadow, so I'm going to leave a little bit more of the paper showing there. And then I'm going to, the next area I'm going to highlight is just a little bit on her nose. Right there. And go ahead and put just a smidge on that nose ring. And if you don't have one of these white pens, a white charcoal is marvelous. Colored pencil. A lot of people have the gel pens. I don't ever have really good luck with the gel pens, but just a little bit here. A little bit in here. All right. So that, especially this little spot, I'm not loving yet, but I'm going to come back and add a little bit more later. So I'm going to go with it. Okay, so this pen is similar in color to my paper, so it's really just darkening a little bit. You could use, sometimes some of these calligraphy pens come with a gray too. I just want to darken it a little bit. And then my little tip is I always keep the back page of my sketchbook available for testing things out, so to see what something's going to look like. So and then if you flip through your sketchbook, you're not like beautiful, 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 weird scribbles. And so just make your back page of your sketchbook your test grounds. Okay, I loved these little shadows under her hair, on her forehead. So I'm just kind of going in with that. And I'm just kind of going darker in some spots and letting it fade off. I'm going to go ahead and darken the whole ear. And then the next spots to me that are dark are around her eyes. I'm going to try to be careful. I don't want to give her like a raccoon appearance, but that's why just kind of experimenting with your colors, if you're using a marker, is good, because you can see what effect it has on the paper. And sometimes it's not the effect you want. Now another way you can handle some of this shading would be to take a thin micron and just do some light hatching. Hopefully you all will post some of these over on Instagram or Sktchy or Museum so I can see what you experimented with. Now her nose. Now if I'm holding my phone. This great undershadow. And then lips. And our conventional wisdom, right, is that the upper lip is a little darker than the bottom. So I'm just going to leave a little bit of space in the bottom. And then come back again. There's that little, just that little nod to a smile. And then let's do the same thing over here. Again, sometimes I'm just pressing harder with the marker in some areas and letting it trail off. And this is just, if I was working in pencil, this would be just me lightly shading these areas. So I'm just doing it a little bit differently. with the marker and hoping for the best. And I just go over areas where I feel like it could use a little bit more. I'm just going to go one directional in areas where I'm covering a lot of ground. So I imagine some of y'all are drawing along with me, and some of y'all are probably a lot faster and are already done. So that's fabulous. And then probably we have some folks that do like what I do, which is kind of just watch the whole thing and then do it later. So that is good too. Okay, so now that I've got this, I'm going to come back in with my white. And I think I'm just gonna do some, I'm just gonna hatch in one direction since I did that with her hair. This is just a slightly thinner pin than the brush pin, so it's allowing me to kind of come across not so strong with the white. I'm just gonna touch on the areas where the light is hitting in a little different way. And I don't know, it's, you know, you just never know. Sometimes when you're experimenting and learning, you never know what's going to come out and look great and what's going to look a little off, but you have to try and you have to keep learning. Okay. All right, I'm just going to put some finishing touches. So if anybody has any extra questions, now is the perfect time to shout them out, and I'll look them. And if Liv, if you're still watching, if you want to bring your drawing down, I'll show it to everyone. Let's see if I can get my daughter to bring hers down. We'll see how it came out. Okay, so the best place when you finish to post these for me is you can go over, you can tag Sktchy, and you can tag me on Instagram. It's Slayboss Studios, and that's SLAYBAUGH Studios on Instagram. And then you can find me on Museum and Sktchy, and it's Tiff Draws Anatomy. So you can look for that there, or you can post it in the link that was posted for this. You can post your drawings underneath there. So anytime you tag me, I'll find it easier, but I always go around and look around for everyone's drawings because I so enjoy them. So, okay. All right. Let me just check up. Yes, toned paper. It's such a treat to find toned paper and work on it. I really love it. So it's just a little trick. Also, I always tell everyone, you can treat yourself, buy yourself some toned paper, get yourself one of these white markers. I forgot, I think I am going to come in with just a little bit of this red in a few spots. And just give that, this isn't red, what am I talking about? It's just a darker peach. And we can just give ourselves a little. All right. Okay. All right, well, it doesn't look like little Liv is going to come down and show her drawings, but we'll see. Maybe she'll let me post it on my Instagram later. And then just letting us have one more level of difference and tone. Okay, there we go. I am done. Thank you all so much for joining in. I love seeing everybody here. I love seeing your drawings. I love seeing all the comments. So wait a second. Are you coming? Wait, I think she's coming. Okay. Usually I have a cat cameo, but today we're getting a daughter cameo. You gonna show?
Sure.
Wow. Okay, all right. So this is Liv's. So fabulous. Liv is 11. So are these oil pastels?
Yeah, I did.
And she used oil pastels. So
wait, Mom. Shout out to Melody because I told my friend to come.
oh my gosh.
So,
All right.
Yeah, now she's on it.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining. I appreciate you. I hope we get to do it again soon. I hope you go and check out some of the other fabulous classes that Sktchy has to offer, and make sure you tag me so I can find all your fabulous artwork. So it's been great. Thanks so much. Thank you all. She will love it. So